Well, I guess that means it's time to get started. I am trying to. I let people in as guests, so it's trying to. Let me spotlight myself. Uh, make sure my camera's not working. All right. Let's see. Not sure why it's spotlighting. There we go. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I see a lot of different faces in here. That's okay. I invited you all as guests, so if you just want to keep your mics muted, um, and I'm gonna pin myself, um, so that other people that are out on LinkedIn Live don't necessarily hear anything. All right. Well, welcome. I am excited to do this webinar. Finally, I finally got here. It's been a while. I've been pretty not as active on LinkedIn as I normally am, but I started the new year off doing some job postings. And I've been thinking about a little bit about this type of webinar. The one where I tell you no BS, like what I'm doing, what you should be doing, you know, kind of going through those misconceptions that people have about being in the job market. And I'm seeing people joining in from Florida, North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. I'm in Wilmington, Silver Spring, Maryland. I used to live in Maryland. Um, so I'm really glad y'all are here because I really, oops. So I'm really glad you're here and you decided to join. I think we had over 300 people registered. Um, and I'm live on YouTube, but also live on LinkedIn. I'm excited to jump into it. I'm excited to share some of the things I've learned over the years, especially most recently when I kind of job hopped a little bit after I left Yellow Dig. So I want to share those experiences with you, and I would love for you to post in the chat what you're hoping to get out of this webinar. What are you looking for? What is something like the one takeaway that you want to see um in this webinar. I really want to make sure that you walk away with something, and I do have some resources to share, which I will share at the end. I love it that people are joining the via the Riverside link. That's so awesome. All right, so I need to share my screen, so let me go ahead and do that. I have a PowerPoint. It's crappy. I'm not going to lie. It's crappy. I'm going to do this as a podcast episode. So when I start the PowerPoint, you're going to hear me introduce the episode because this is not only going to be a LinkedIn Live, it's also going to be released as a podcast episode on my podcast, the EdUp Learning and Development. Let me go ahead and start the slideshow. All right. Let's do this because it wants me share screen window, this one share, and let's do play from start. Can everyone see my slides? Let me make sure those are coming up. I'm just getting back into this, like, doing things on LinkedIn Live and trying to figure out all the different things, some of the updates and things that got incorporated. So hopefully you're able to see my slides. I'm looking at the live right now. Can everyone see my slides? It doesn't look like the slides are coming up on the live. Goodness. Okay, let me try to change the settings here. I can see it on my end, but it's not showing up on LinkedIn. Wonder why. Turn on. Play from current slide. Well, we don't want to go into the deep dark hole of nothingness, I really do have some great things to share. And also, too, inadvertently, Riverside deleted my old. I can see it on my end, but it's not. And then I had to create a new one really fast because it wasn't working. Okay, you can see it. Yeah, okay. It's not showing up on LinkedIn yet. Let me try to unpin myself and see if that's the problem. People. I promise I'll get better at this as I get to do more webinars again. Pin. Nope, we want the slides. All right. And we want me pinned. I don't know why it's not doing this. This is making me upset. And I tested everything beforehand. Oh, I see it on the live. Okay, let me go back to share. All right, here we go. There's just a delay. All right, share screen. Technology is always fun. We all know this. All right. If you're joining via the Riverside, if you could just mute yourself, please. I invited you all as guests instead of audience, so it puts you in there as like a podcast guest. All right, let's get this party started. All right. So I'm going to introduce the podcast episode now. So you're going to hear me do a little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to jump into any sorts of things that I've decided to share. And at the end and throughout, I will check the LinkedIn. I don't have a moderator, so be patient with me as far as asking questions go. And I'll share my email. I'll share all the ways to contact me if you have any questions. Okay. All right, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of EdUp L&D. My name is Holly Owens, and I'm your host. And I am so excited today because we are diving into how I landed 3 jobs without even applying to them. So, one of the things I definitely want to cover here is why submitting thousands, hundreds of job applications is probably not the best way to get the job. So it's going to be important for you. I want you to fully pay attention and be engaged in this webinar. You don't have to take screenshots. Like I said, this PowerPoint is just something, AI helped me generate. The real I'm gonna say the real, secret and the soft stuff is gonna be through what I say. All right. So this is some housekeeping stuff, and I hope the LinkedIn Live is gonna catch up soon. And I want you to know that are you going to get access to a recording? Absolutely. So you don't have to worry about, like I said, don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry about, screenshots. I will share the link to this presentation in the show notes. So if you don't follow my podcast, be sure to follow up. It's edupLND.com, and you can find, so that's edup, EDL, and then an N and D.com. And you can subscribe to my show and you can see when this episode and other episodes are released. Like I said, can I get access to the presentation? No, these are basic notes and it's crap. And I said I'll share in the notes. That's fine. The really juicy parts are going to be in the actual recording. So, I love when really good presentations are right now. I'm like screenshotting, I'm like taking notes. I really want you all to just see it on your screens. So let me see something here. All right. The other thing, do I have any coaching resources? I get services. I get asked this all the time, and or other resources that I can share. And I will tell you, yes, I do. And stay tuned because I'm going to share that all with you. I'm going to switch this. This might be with a problem. All right. So, as you might guess, I have a little disclaimer on this presentation. This is definitely, I'm being fully honest and transparent about the things that I've been doing. People are always asking me, like, how did you get this job? And, what are the different things that you did to, land a job with such and such, or, how did you find out about that? I'm really sharing all the stuff here. So I'm giving you that insider access, and it's no way, I'm not saying this way always works. It all the time, nothing is an absolute. I want to emphasize that your journey is your own, and I'm not promising anything, you know. And this is a good side note. When people promise you're going to get to do something in so many weeks, like if you take this instructional design class, you're going to be an instructional designer in 6 weeks. That is not the case. So promises like that really don't exist. Now I'm going to have to change. So it's just showing. It's showing a lot of like stuff in the. I see it, and it's not really the screen. I want a full screen, and I want to share the screen. I can see on the live it's like Windows, which is annoying. All right, hide, share, screen. Let's do entire screen. Share. Let me play from the current slide. All right. Sorry about the little mishaps here. All right. So, yes, you're going to get access to this. You can have access to the notes that I have in this presentation, and I am going to share some things about the coaching services that I offer. If you're in the Riverside room, can you please put yourself on mute? Because I can hear myself. Thank you. All right. One of the problems that most people think that have, when you're applying to jobs, and the most common thing I hear in my LinkedIn inbox is that people are applying to hundreds and hundreds. And I even had somebody tell me most recently that they applied to 4,000 positions and haven't got one interview. That really is daunting to me. That really is something that you've spent a lot of time thinking about, like, you just spent a lot of time applying, basically. And most people like yourselves who are probably in this room, you're just doing exactly what you've been told to do. Apply more, tweak the resume, write another cover letter, make it a personalized resume. Contact the person via LinkedIn, send them a message, all those different things, those traditional things that we talk about as L&D professionals. We give that advice, and we just hope, we kind of just pray that that's going to happen. So the problem is that the advice assumes hiring still doesn't work the way it did like 10 or even 5 years ago. Because constantly applying, constantly putting yourself out there and getting rejected, not only is it taxing on your mental state, you're also losing that time that you could be spending with your family, that you could be doing other things. It's all consuming. The silence that you're experiencing or the rejection that you're experiencing isn't personal. And I find that a lot of people I talk to, they're like, they take it very personally when they get rejected. Like, I know that I am the right person for this job and I can do this job. And I love the confidence there. But you're also up against hundreds of other people who are just as qualified, if not more qualified than you. So you have to think about that, I like to use the analogy about buying a house. Things are bought off market. So houses get sold before they even reach the market. Job positions get filled before they even reach the market. And that is a space where you need to find yourself in that area that you have insider knowledge into some of the things that are happening. Now, I'm not saying I know everything about that, but this is an area that's commonly untapped. And I think it's worth exploring so that you can figure out what's next for you, what's next in your career. All right, so here are the three roles that I was hired for without applying. I did not apply to these. One of the positions was created for me. And I just want to talk briefly, and I'm giving you this answer at the beginning about these three different roles and how I got them. So the first one is a full-time director of growth marketing. Marketing, I don't have a marketing degree. I've just been out on LinkedIn a lot since 2020. I've grown from 50 followers to 50,000 followers. I've promoted different products. I've promoted different things. So Yellow Dig, the CEO, Sean Roy, who I'm still good friends with, brought me on, and I was originally like just a marketing specialist, and then he's like, I want to make you the director of growth marketing based on what you've done with like your podcast and what you do with LinkedIn. I think it would be great, a great role for our ed tech company. It was a benefited role. It was full time, and it was a challenging role because I had never really. I mean, I kind of done marketing, but not in the traditional sense of taking one tool and promoting it, and all the sales stuff and inbound, outbound, all those different words that I had to use. And the way that this role came about, besides him seeing the influence on LinkedIn and the number of followers that I had, is because I had him on my podcast at least three or four times. And we kept in contact over the years. And I'm not saying you have to start a podcast to get a job. I'm just saying you might have to have some conversations with people and continue to check in with them. Because in any relationship, it's important that you communicate, and it's important that you're supporting people and they know that you're there. You still exist. Like, if I haven't talked to somebody in a while, I'm going to send them a text. If I haven't communicated with somebody, um, out on LinkedIn world that I used to communicate with all the time, I'm going to check in with them. So that role came basically out of the podcast and the things and the visibility on LinkedIn. The second role that I landed without applying is the corporate contract with Mars. Yes, that's the candy company. I've been posting about Mars and the contract ending and all that stuff. Um, so that's the most recent position that I had. And the person who hired me knew about followed my job postings. And she had said to me, I follow your job postings. I see your resources out on LinkedIn. So again, visibility. And she's like, I think you would be perfect for this contract position. So I got hired in that. And then so far we have like visibility via podcast, visibility via LinkedIn, developing a relationship with that person. And then higher education. I landed a contract with Lindenwood University. And this came about because these are people I worked with at a different job in the past who wanted to hire me. They saw my skills, they know what I was capable of, and they hired me to be a contract instructional designer to redesign online content. So these three different paths, I had different ways of getting there, but once this starts happening for you, it doesn't really stop. Like, people will start to recognize that you are really out there on like LinkedIn World or YouTube or doing other things, and that you will also have an online presence, you have a brand. Now, I'm not saying that after this presentation, again, the disclaimer, that you go and you create like logos and a website and buy Google Workspace and start your own business and all this stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying use the free stuff that you have access to, like LinkedIn, email, communication, texting if you're close with that person, and use that to your advantage. Because just like, the slide before was referencing the olden days, I'll call it the olden days. Um, You have to know somebody that knows somebody who's going to communicate with you that that house that's off the market is perfect for you. And what are you going to do right away? You're going to contact a realtor. You're going to have your stuff all put together by the loan officer, and you're going to be ready to go. That's also too with a job that you're going to get off market. All right. It is so important that you pay attention to this. And I've alluded to this a lot, or I've even said it at this point. Hiring is relationship driven, not application driven. Yes, you submit an application, you will probably still, you may have to submit an application or share one with the person who wants to hire you, obviously. But, you know, roles, like I said, they're sometimes discussed, they're scoped, and sometimes filled before they're even posted. So if you only exist on that resume, and I'm sorry you can't see my video because I'm very animated right now. If you only exist on paper, you're already behind because the people that you're competing against have some visibility somewhere. Or, not so lucky for you, they're hiring an internal candidate. There's really nothing you can do about that. What does visibility do for you? It creates I can't even say the word. Creates familiarity, and that in turn creates trust. So you're building trust among your audience. You're building trust amongst the people that you might be working for, or you might potentially have a job. Sorry, that you potentially might land a role with. So if you just exist on paper, the resume is such a static document. Such a static document. Okay, so you have to exist nowadays on more than just paper. And again, I'm not saying like you have to go out and spend hours, spend tons of money of buying Canva and they created an interactive portfolio. I mean, you do need those things, but you need to start somewhere um with this and creating that visibility for yourself. This is going to be the overall theme of this presentation. All right. What I did differently. So, when I started being more visible on LinkedIn, I started thinking about this a long time ago. So in 2020, and this was prior to the pandemic hitting, January of 2020, I was like, LinkedIn's out there. I can't, I don't have a lot of people that I'm connected to. I just want to have some conversations to see where people are at, maybe in their instructional design journey or their L&D journey. So one of the things I started doing is just chatting with people on the phone or chatting with them on LinkedIn about like what's going on, what are you doing? I don't know what compelled me to do that, but I'm glad I did because I started to meet some fabulous individuals who I'm still connected with. So instead of being focused, like if I was looking for a different job, I just focused on being visible and consistent and clear about what I do and how I think. So people not only got to see that in our conversations, I would share resources with them and they would share resources with me. And we would, kind of crowdsource stuff at this point pre COVID. And, it was great because we were collaborating. And these people I had never met in person, I'd only met via LinkedIn. And we were developing relationships. So when people say it's not possible to develop a virtual sustainable relationship or collaborative ship, whatever you want to call it, on LinkedIn, that's not true. I don't believe that. So you want to build relationships with people and stop applying. I do the same thing because it makes me feel better. I'm not going to lie. The LinkedIn Easy Apply is like, it's like a temptation. And I don't really feel that it works for people. I feel like it seems like it's easy apply, but it's just going into the abyss of some database that no human is reading or a AI system is going to review it and spit you back out anyways, an ATS system. So stop applying into those black holes. One of the things we say as instructional designers or in L&D, you need to find an area where you want to be because it's so big. And this could apply to other industries too, not just learning and development. So the traditional advice, when people tell you, and I'm sure we've all been told this, like, kind of, I'm thinking about my grandfather, like the harder you work, the more reward you get, that same principle doesn't apply here. Just apply more. It sounds really productive, but it ignores reality. Algorithms on LinkedIn and other places filter out people before a human ever looks at your resume. So you're filtered out. Recruiters themselves can tell you they rely heavily on referrals and people that may know you and they refer you to them. So if you're only focused on optimizing those static documents, like a cover letter and a resume, you really are optimizing for the wrong gatekeeper. And that's what's going to keep you out of the game, in my opinion. Is that I'd rather talk to people and tell them about my experiences than send over a resume and they don't get any sort of insight into who I am as a person. Because on paper, yes, you do look good, but if I could sit here and have a conversation with you, it feels a lot better. You're having a positive interaction with me, and then you can ask them different things about their company. You can ask them different things about what they're planning to do and all that stuff. So when people tell you just apply more, don't do it. You're just going to get sucked into that black hole. Okay. So the question then shifts for us. How do I apply better to what am I known for? And I'm not saying you have to be some LinkedIn celebrity or influencer. You don't have to do that. But you do have to make yourself known. And other people want to use like Facebook or TikTok or whatever medium you feel comfortable in, but LinkedIn is the professional area. And I know LinkedIn's got a lot of slack lately for some of the algorithms and the fake accounts and things, but I still feel it's a place where other professionals, you can find those circles to connect with other professionals. So one of the things you need to think about too is that clearly positioning yourself matters. Public proof matters. Showing up where the decision makers are, those people who can offer you the opportunity, they matter. If you're in a conversation with a CEO and you maybe talk about, the accessibility of their tool and you notice that they didn't have this or they had that and they can improve this, that's probably going to impress that person that you did some research on their company. You want people to recognize your name before you even talk about the role. You want people to kind of know you, like in spaces. It's difficult to do this. I'm not going to lie and say that this is something that everybody can do because it's not. But it is something that you can work on and you can try to do. You have to think about, especially those of us in the room who have decades of experience, how many people you know at this point in your career. And think of like, this one person and then they know 5 other people. So if you know 20 people, do the math, that's a lot of people who know a lot of people who know about you. So that one conversation makes a difference. And who knows, the CEO or the president of the company might want to introduce you to somebody that works at the company or say, hey, get in touch with such and such. I think we might have something for you. So just think about it that way. Introverts. I am an introverted extrovert, believe it or not. I get huge anxiety in rooms with people I don't know and strangers and all that stuff. But to be visible, you have to move past that. And I know people are going to say, I don't want to do that. I can't do it. I can't talk to other people. Well, chat with them until you become comfortable with having a conversation with them or joining like a audio call or something. I love it when people on LinkedIn, some of my connections, they use that audio, they record the audio and they send it to me. That makes things so much easier. I haven't gotten there yet. I don't know why I'm like afraid of my voice. I do a podcast and everything, but try something different. Visibility, in my honest opinion, isn't about being loud. Okay? It's about it's not about posting every single day because the algorithm's going to spit you back out and be like you're posting too much or whatever that they decide to change. It's about consistency. When people see you thinking clearly and showing up regularly, trust builds quietly. And the reason it's so difficult to do this is because it's not something that happens overnight. It takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to kind of find what you want to talk about. When I talk to my coaching clients and I tell them, I'm like, just post about something you're proud of, something that you created and related to something important on our stage of learning and development, like accessibility, like student learners for higher education, related to something that you know. Think about the gaps that exist. We do that all the time as instructional designers. That's why we develop certain materials. So eventually, you stop being a risk to these people and you become the obvious choice. I love it when I go to conferences and people are like, I follow you on LinkedIn. That and then they say right after that, I love the resources you share. That makes me feel so good because I'm just throwing stuff out into their world and hoping that people love it and it's useful and that it changes their perspective on getting a job, finding connections, building community. And it's so great to hear that. It's so awesome when people say that. But that's not what I was aiming towards. I was aiming towards being like a voice of reason and a voice of truth to the things that people don't talk to you about. I'll let you in on a little secret. One of the reasons I started posting jobs on LinkedIn isn't because I wanted more visibility. It came from the fact that people from corporations, organizations, higher education institutions, they were not posting salaries. They were keeping it a secret. And I wanted to find jobs and companies that were transparent about that. So I started posting jobs where I only saw what the salary was. And I did not, I provided visibility to those companies because I tagged them. I did not, for those companies that didn't do that, they don't get visibility. So if you're not transparent in your approach, corporations and organizations, higher education institutions, you need to think about being transparent. So that's one of the reasons, the main reason, honestly, that I started doing job postings. And now I continue it because I think people need to see that if you are jumping into learning development, it's not just instructional design. You can be a learning developer, you can be a curriculum manager, you can be a variety of different things. Remember, I was a director of growth marketing in this industry. So, all right. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes I've seen people is waiting until you're desperate to be visible. So you start going out to LinkedIn, you're desperate for a job, maybe this one's toxic, you got laid off, which is common in the job market now. And you start just connection requests, follow, download this, download that. That's overwhelming. You are not thinking about your cognitive load at that point. You're thinking about like, I'm checking off these items and I'm following all these people and I have all these resources and I'm applying to 500 different jobs, but I haven't landed anything yet. Well, that's because I, I dare to say, you're kind of overdoing it. You need to be strategic about how you approach this situation. Remember, being visible doesn't mean you're posting all the time, doesn't mean you're connecting all the time. It could just mean 1 or 2 days a week you comment on other people's posts, or you reach out to an old colleague and say, "Hey, how's it going? I may be looking for a position, didn't know, wanted to say hi and see how you and the family are doing, and maybe get some information about if you're hiring." And another thing, only networking when you want something. I cannot tell you at this stage in the game with 51,000 some followers how many times people do not read about my experience. I'm sure some of you have experienced this. You know, that is an interaction, that's a negative interaction to me. If you put something in my inbox and you haven't read who I am or about my experience, or you've skimmed it and put in the filler words that you use for every message of my experience, I am not going to have a conversation with you. Because to me, that is not genuine. And humans have the ability to be genuine, empathetic, all the different emotions. They have the ability to communicate, feel things, like you need to use that intentionally. Reaching out to people, and I'm going to say this for all the L&D people, influencers, whatever out there, you need to be intentional about your approach. It's the transactional thing is so visible. It's right off the bat, like I can't even tell you the message. I block people because they only want to connect with me to show me their tool. They only want to connect with me to tell me about the services that they offer. They only want to connect with me and they'll send along, and these are really brave people. They will send along their resume and ask me to review it without even a hello, how are you? Why? I'm not giving away stuff for free. I give away enough for free. If I'm spending time reviewing your resume, and this goes for all of you as well, when you start becoming visible, you need to protect your time. Your time is valuable. Okay. So careers definitely stall when visibility is reactive instead of, like I said, intentional. Those authentic conversations, like some of my very closest friends that I know if we don't talk every day, that I can depend on and have a conversation with, or if I need something, I can reach out to them because we've developed that trust, we've developed that relationship. So if you're not ready to develop relationships or get to know people, this approach probably isn't going to work for you. Okay. The other thing too is you on this side, when you were looking for a job, you I'm going to say we, I'm not going to say just you in general. We put so much power into the hands of the companies, organizations, the institutions that are hiring us. Like they have the dangling carrot and we want it so bad. And I know there's like dire situations out there where people have been laid off and it's months and months and months that you will do and be desperate and take whatever you get or do whatever you need to compromise some of your goals, compromise, like take a lower salary. Please don't do that. I've done that in the past and it doesn't work out for you in the end. Um, just so that you can have that position. And it turns out, like, when you do those things, when you sacrifice pieces of yourself for a position, you end up not liking the position and you're going to leave it anyways. So you really need to think about the fact that you do hold power. I have it's free. I have the instructional, like an interview guide, and it talks about the different potential interview stages. And one of the things that I like to point out to people is that when you get that initial interview, if it's an HR representative, if it's a recruiter, or hopefully it's somebody in the company, you have certain questions you need to ask. If there's no salary listed, you need to ask about the salary. I had a friend who went through an entire process. She was becoming a director of instructional design, and it was on the East Coast, and the committee or the people waited until the end of the process to tell her the salary. She didn't ask. And guess what? The salary sucked. It was so low. It was lower than what I started out as a teacher in 2007, which was $48,000. And this person was so disappointed because she had jumped through all the hoops. And this is a director position. I mean, there's a whole nother conversation to have with higher ed about some of their processes. So I'll get off my soapbox for that. So don't wait until you need to be visible. Be visible throughout. Again, not saying constantly posting or constantly connecting with people. Eventually I'm probably just going to stop, taking connection requests because it's becoming overwhelming. And I don't feel like people are truly getting to know each other. They're kind of just checking a box. And that's not authentic. Okay. Things that you can do today. All right. This doesn't require a full like reband or quitting your job. Like, I'm not saying go quit your job, find something else. Like you're a whole new person, shave your head like Britney Spears circa 2007. That's not what I'm promoting here. So what you need to do is start by, who are you? Have you ever really sat down and thought about, who am I? What have I learned through all the positions I've applied for, all the positions that I've hold, the credentials that I hold? Like, who am I? What does this say about me? And really sit down with yourself, probably in a quiet room, get away from the kids and the dogs and the cats and all the things, and write down who you think you are. Not as just a professional, but as a person. Like, I love talking about the humanness of this. We are not robots. We have emotions. Things happen in life. We deal with grief. We deal with traumatic events. All these things impact who we are as humans. And that is not left out of this part of searching for jobs or holding a job or being professionals. So you really need to start by clarifying, what's your story? It doesn't have to be something profound. Like, you don't have to be a Kardashian. You don't have to, like, do all the different things to reinvent yourself constantly. And professionally, you can think about the insights you can share weekly. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's another thing too. People hold on to the fact that everything that they submit or everything that they post has to be perfection. I'll be very transparent right now. I use a lot of AI in my post and I add a little bit of me. And AI knows me pretty well now based off of what I post in the past. Like, it gets to know you and it really knows my brand. So, with that resource, like, I think back to the time when we didn't have AI and I'm like, I don't know how we did it. It took years and years for me to design courses, come up with outlines and stuff. But, really sit down, like I said, and start thinking about who you are. And then reconnect. I mentioned this earlier, with people you already know. Like, it's so interesting to me. And I've heard these stories. Like, I talked to such and such. Holly, you won't believe this. I talked to such and such. She's working, or they're working at an institution. They're building their instructional design team and they're looking for a contract instructional designer. And I'm looking for a contract role, and it just aligns perfectly. Now, I'm not saying it happens like that every time, but you would be so surprised how the momentum often starts for you. It's really closer than you think. It's really closer than you think. Okay. I've talked a little bit about this, like, who's this approach for? Definitely, if you're listening to this podcast episode or you're attending this webinar live, you're tired of the traditional, like, throwing things into the void. Like, you're tired of applying to the millions of jobs. I still can't believe that one person applied to 4,000 positions. That is way too much. That's way too much. So you're tired of shouting into the void. For professionals, this is for professionals who want to move into intentional relationships, conversations, talking to people, putting yourself out there a little bit instead of panicking. I have seen people do this. Like, it's interesting because I'll be having a conversation with somebody in LinkedIn on LinkedIn in the chat, and we're having a conversation, and I share, the free resources that I have and all the different things. And like ready to go, we want to coach, or we want to do something together. And guess what? They ghost me. I don't hear from them forever. And I'm like, that's a panic person. I understand things happen, people are busy, that kind of stuff, but if I'm spending the time sharing stuff with you, be intentional about that relationship. Or if somebody else is spending time, be authentic with them. If you're busy and you're not going to use any of those things, please don't waste time. Don't waste people's time. It's not appreciated nor warranted. And it's for people, this is for people who want long term leverage, not just the next role. Because in today's industry, we are not like the previous generation. And some people still do this. We are not, especially thinking about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, not staying in roles for the 25, 30, 35, whatever years like our grandparents or our great grandparents. In order to move up in this industry or make more money or be more visible or get a different title, you have to move, because there's oftentimes you hit the ceiling at the current job. Don't get comfortable, because you're going to have to move. And this is coming from a person, I've moved a lot over the past 20 years. And you know what? Every single position that I've had has taught me something new. And I take the lessons, toxic, non toxic, whatever environment, and I apply those to my next position. So if you're looking to stop shouting into the void, being more intentional, not panicking, and getting that long term leverage, this is the approach for you. And I hope that you think that this is something that where you can find success. Okay. Again, your takeaways here from this presentation. And I'm going to leave some time at the end so I can answer any questions. Opportunities don't magically appear. Okay. You're not Elsa. You're not one of the princesses. You're not a fairy godmother. I love Disney, by the way. They're attracted. When you align your visibility, the consistency, and the relationships, you create leverage. People know who I am. I don't use it to my advantage all the time, but they know who I am. And if they know of me and what I know about learning and development, that makes me competitive in what they're hiring for. Okay. That makes me like, oh, Holly, I saw you created this document and we need some help doing blah, blah, blah. So, visibility, consistency, and relationships, creating that leverage and like using that appropriately, not taking advantage of it. Some people are like, I relate this to celebrities, even though I love pop culture. Sometimes they use that stuff to their advantage, like getting out of speeding tickets and things like that. We're not doing any of that stuff. We are being authentic humans, and we are leveraging that relationship. It's symbiotic. We're getting something, they're getting something. Or think about it this way, and if you're like in higher education like I am now, I went back to higher education, it benefits people you don't even know it benefits, like the learners, the students, or people that are trying to break into this field. So you really don't need luck, you need to align things. Okay. um I think it's important that you really dive deep into who you are, like I said in the previous slide, and think about the things that you want. All too often, And this is especially true for like, I realize this because I'm a stepmom now, like for females and stuff. We don't think about our needs because we put everybody else's needs before ours. And this is not strictly just females. This is a lot of people who are like the heads of their families, or they just, they're good at doing stuff. Like I'm sure a lot of you experience this. You're the person in the group that does all the work. And then you become the person in the professional setting that they're like, you're really good at your job. We're going to give you more work. I really want you to think about what that means and what that does to you. You want a position where you're valued, you're respected, you have the opportunity to grow, you're respected as a human being. You are not there to be a robot like 9 to 5 and just sit in your seat and do Zoom meetings. Think about what you really want. Write it down and put it somewhere where you see it every day. Because I know the things. I think it happened when I shifted into midlife over 40. I was like, why am I taking less salary? Why am I adjusting my expectations in this relationship that don't meet my needs, my basic needs? I want you to think of it a job like this. You are worth it. You are worth it. The job industry is toxic. You have to find the areas where you can find those pockets where the jobs are pre-market, or where you find good people who you just talk and vent about some of the issues, or you try to solve the issues of finding jobs. Things like, and I'm getting ready to share my resources, things like Teal, things like Skip, Team for Learning. I share these all the time because these systems, these areas are sustainable and help you with navigate some of the things in this job market, both like resumes, cover letter writing, all those different things. Remember, you don't having more doesn't mean that it's better. You don't necessarily need more resources. You need the right ones and to use them consistently. And sometimes you have those resources already. There might be something in your mind, something you did in a previous job, or something you learn. So I, like I said, I do have a Gumroad. I have some free things out there. I have some paid for things out there, and nothing is above like $8. It's just something I decided to do because I was getting so many requests for different things. And I can share that link in the chat once I stop presenting. The next thing, and I'm hoping, okay, I've been rewriting my book. It's not just one thing. Real talk on how to make the leap in the L&D. And some of these things I talk about are in there. If you want a preview of chapter 1, because I think I finally like chapter 1 is good and I have a couple other chapters finalized, you can send me an email at holly@edupLND.com and I'd be happy to share that link with you. So that's coming, whether it's February or March, we'll figure it out. All right. My goal today, and I hope I accomplished this, was not to give you another checklist. Like I could have put this all on a checklist and say, do these things, have a good time. I want you to walk away with some clarity. I want you to walk away with some motivation. I want you to walk away with give yourself the opportunity to reflect. You do not need to do everything. You need to do the right things consistently. So as the slide says, come curious, leave with clarity, and leave with a plan. Okay. You got this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. All right. Let me pin myself again. And I see some, if you want to put at this time, we have about 5 minutes left. And I want to see, what are your questions? What can I answer? Did I say things you didn't like? And if you're in the Riverside, if you want to come off the mic and ask a question or feedback, I think I hear somebody. So if you're in the Riverside, can you mute yourself, please? Let me see. Let's see who's off mute. I gotta find them. All right. Any questions? Oh, I see all the reactions. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't know why it's not showing my face on LinkedIn. And you can definitely post things on this, this thing, this thing again, or where the sorry, words are hard right now. Like the recording when it posts on LinkedIn, you can I'll go back and answer those questions. Ooh, this is a good one from Geo. You mentioned moving around a lot in the past 20 years. Somebody still got their mic on. Hold on. 1 second, Geo. I'll get there. All right. All right. Question. You mentioned moving around a lot in the past 20 years. How do you handle the inevitable interview question about why you're looking to leave your current role? I tell them the truth. I'm like, it's not working for me anymore, or there's been a toxic work environment created from certain things, or you don't have to say anything. You can just say, I'm looking to transition out because I want to be able to grow in a different position and I reached max capacity here. You can give them those different things, but really, honestly, it's none of their business. It's none of their business. All right. I hope that answers your question, Gio. And like, put it in Chat GPT. Like, what's the appropriate response? And to me, it's like you can't go like it's none of your business. To me, it's coming from the perspective of growth. I want to grow somewhere else. All right. Jill asks, what is a question you've never been asked but would like to be asked? My personal experiences impact my professional life. There's a lot of trauma in my past, lots of death and people dying when they're young and all kinds of different stuff. I would love to be asked the question, how does that motivate you in your professional life? I'd love to be asked, like, what are some of the things that you've done personally, what you've gone through, because we've all been knocked down, that have helped you grow as a professional? I think that would be a good question because it intertwines the human experience with the professional experience, because in the traditional sense, you're not supposed to talk about those things, which I think is dumb because why wouldn't you talk about those things? Like, they impact you. You're welcome. All right, let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, you're welcome. Let me see if I have anything on LinkedIn. Let me grab my phone. All right, we've got about 1 minute left. Does somebody want to come on the mic? All right. Well, like I said, this is going to be released as a podcast episode. So if you want to refer back to it, it's going to be there for life. I will let you know. It should be in a couple days, depending upon I have some other work priorities, but it will definitely be released as an episode. I will share out the resources that I share in the presentation, along with the presentation, where to find me, all those different things. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come to this and listen to me talk about my experiences. I hope it was helpful. And I was so grateful to see how many people registered, how much interest is in this sort of topic. So if you need anything, I'll see you out on LinkedIn World. Bye.